introduction, I run the Microsoft Accelerator program, and I have 13 children. We run 2 batches in every 6 months. So 13 plus 13, about 25, 26 companies graduate out of our program. Our job is to take good folks with good products and insanely make them successful. Our job is also to make them failures quickly if they're on the wrong path. As you know, the startup journey is not a one-way street. It could go any way because it's absolutely ridden with risks, and every startup in this room actually know about that as well. So the idea here is to quickly test your product or your idea and then move on, and we help companies even do that. So out of so far we've graduated about 100 startups in the past 3 to 4 years, and out of which about 9 of them have gotten exits. They got bought out, they got the next, they bought some other companies and etc. And then about another 9 of them actually have shut shop. And for about the remaining 80 are very healthy, growing very well, and many of them have pivoted as they went through the program. That's the other aspect of the acceleration that we do. I'll talk a little more about that. But before this, I want to kind of give you a snapshot of, we've been in this ecosystem for quite some time, and we've learned some things as being part of the members of this ecosystem. So I want to give you a small snapshot of where the ecosystem has been. Today, India is about 3rd largest software ecosystem in the world, and some of them could contend that number. It could be 3rd or it could be 4th, but it's definitely in the top 5. And the reason I say that is because the definition of what a startup is changes from person to person or country to company, country to country. So if you were to look at it any which way, we got about 4,000 startups, technology-driven startups in the country, and we've got about 25,000 startups overall if you were to remove that filter of the technology per se. But we are looking at technology-driven startups, and there are about 4,000. And we are pretty close to either 3rd or the 4th in the world, give and take how you measure that particular metric. It's been going really, really well for us in the past 5 years. I did a startup myself way back in 2008, about 8 years ago right now. And at the time, the ecosystem, you could practically meet everybody in that ecosystem in one room. Today, that's not the case. Today, we have various cities, each of them having their own startup ecosystem, and it's bubbling and growing all over the place. Bangalore has about 50% of these startups. Delhi has about 25-30% of the startup. And then Pune, and then Chennai, and then Hyderabad, all of them are growing really well. And if you were to look at the thematics of it, we started off with B2C, then we went to e-commerce, and then we went to a food delivery startup. And what comes after food? Healthcare, right? So we are slowly seeing the emergence and the maturity of the ecosystem go from more from a B2C direct problem solving of the individual entrepreneur's own experience to actually go into B2B2C and to B2B kind of maturity is what we are seeing. Currently, if you were to look at it, last year was the year of e-commerce. There's been a ton of growth in the in the investment cycles around that, and this year we are seeing the rise of the B2B take off. And it's actually a very good point, because if you were to see B2B, we have been struggling mainly because from a market perspective, the growth, consumption of software and IT was a bit sluggish initially, and that's exactly where we had trouble in terms of growing that particular market. But I think in the next 5 years, B2B across verticals is going to be a growth market for many of you. And particularly, if you were to look at the health tech, which is on the emerging vertical, we do see quite a lot of activity happening there. To witness that, we are seeing, outside, you've seen so many booths with so many startups which are coming in. Obviously, each of them have their own characteristics with the way they go up, but healthcare is one area where we see tremendous amount of disruption, as well as the use of technology to optimize your operations or even innovate on what you do in terms of patient care and all that. There are a bunch of major issues in India. If you were to look at all problems around the healthcare, India is the capital of those problems, because we've got about 1 billion people. And you talk about diabetes, we are number 1. You talk about cardiovascular, we are number 1. You talk about anything, hypertension, we are number 1. I mean, this is one area we really shine, right? So I think this is exactly the reason why this becomes a hotbed of innovation. Not only because we have large enough market for everything, but we are also the most constrained market for this particular field. We have the least infrastructure maturity. We have the least IT adoption. We have the least, maturity in terms of the processes and everything else, right? So you're actually, frankly, talking about grounds up innovation across the board. And this is exactly where the mindset of what has worked, what type of technology and the solutions has worked in a developed economies will not work here, period. And that's exactly where, that's the recipe for constrained innovation, and that's exactly why startups play a naturally good role in solving those problems in a unique manner, right? So, and if you were to say, that's exactly what we are starting to see. Number one, India never had wired line connections, right? Whoever has, even now, it's hard for me to explain to my daughter that there were telephones with wires going into the wall, right? It's very hard for her to even understand. So we leapfrogged that particular phase where we are mobile, not only mobile first, but where we are the mobile only country. There are billion mobile phones. There are 250 million smartphones. So all these consumers are in their pockets carrying much more IT-powered devices that you can ever have access to, right? So, and then you actually take a look at the data growth as well. Today, if you were to say YouTube, India is probably the number second or the third in the world for YouTube. You talk about WhatsApp, India is number 2 or so. I mean, the only reason India is number 2 is China has another WhatsApp kind of clone out there called WeChat. Otherwise, we would have been number 3. But we are number 3 right there. Facebook, we are number 3. So if you were to take a look at the usage of technology, we have completely leapfrogged. And if you were to look at the number of laptops in India or desktops in India, it's pathetically low. Right? Why? Is that because we completely leapfrogged that particular phase of technology development. So if you were to look at how we develop our apps or our solutions, we have to take cognizant of the fact that you are talking about a consumer who has never seen a laptop, or a consumer who has never seen any other conventional infrastructure solution. So you have to develop for that particular world, which means you have to develop for the cloud, which means it has to work on the mobile first. In fact, mobile only, correct? Which means you have to contend with the different type of languages. You have to contend with different type of input mechanisms. You have to contend with different kind of demographic settings. All of that is very different from how we do it. So exactly, which is why it's a very tough market. It is a very constrained environment, and the ecosystem was very nascent. And this is exactly the motivation for Microsoft to actually set up an accelerator program, which was set up about 4 years ago. Like I said at the beginning, we graduated about 100 companies today. And we are the most neutral accelerator program in the country. We do not take any money and no equity, none of it. We actually bring people in, help them become insanely successful in about 6 months. How do we do that? We do it in over 4 type of supports is what we provide. Number 1, we get the world-class mentoring. We got global mentors who are part of the program, who have been there, done that, subject matter expertise, who are paired with individual startups. Their job is to help you make good decisions and support you in your growth. Number 2, we have go-to-market access, which is primarily take you to various customers and then help you open doors from a market perspective. Number 3, we provide fantastic technology support. And number 4 is the ecosystem support of mentors, investors, other partners that you need. It's a holistic program which has been running for about 4 years, and we are the number 1 accelerator in the country. And what we have seen, and this is exactly the learning that we've gone through, and what we have seen is that in this ecosystem is that today there are mature startups in the ecosystem. However, what we lack is the ability to open doors for customers. That's very, very critical. I do see a lot of smart engineers who can probably build some solutions based on whatever their experience is, but they need to look at how do they focus on growing those solutions where it has applicability not just to your local environment, but to the globe. And I'm starting to see that in many of the solutions that I have, but let me just talk about some, couple of them, which is who we work with. I think that's the last one. So this is, these are some of our portfolio company. They've all gone through the program, and frankly, it's a part of the growth process. You learn, you change, you pivot, you adapt, you try, and then you keep growing. And that's exactly what we need to do. We can't walk in thinking that what we've developed, the first version, will work forever. First of all, the plan that you have will fail with your first customer. You need to actually then go back to your drawing board and keep changing, and then go back and pitch it again. The good news today is that you have many large organizations willing to open their doors, right? I mean, the testament is this particular session in today's conference is that startups have a session, an equal voice, share of voice, to actually make their solutions be seen, heard, tried, and all that. Please do leverage this opportunity and ask for help and support, and you will get it. Thank you very much.